Ms. Robinson, I want to follow up by trying to understand your answer to one of Senator Cruz's questions. And this is really a question, not a suggestion. Do I understand your position to be that there are two sexes, but there can be more than two genders?
I wouldn't even say two, and we've got Dr. Lopez here as well, but there's also the definition of intersex. I think that often in these conversations we're conflating sex and gender, and I do want to affirm here that trans women are women. That is their gender.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. Do you make a distinction between sex and gender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain that. Do you think there are more than two sexes?
I believe that there's a definition for intersex as well that I want to acknowledge. But sex is assigned at birth.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm thoroughly confused. So you're born, I'm talking about biology, male, female, and what else?
I believe that intersex is also acknowledged. But again, I'm not a doctor here. What I can
say what does intersex mean?
Is that there's a difference between sex and gender. And I think in these conversations, we're conflating the two.
Well,
so now you have to be a doctor, folks, to know if you're a male or female. Can you believe it? This is where we're at in 2023. Same type of answer that Ketanji Brown Jackson said, well, I'm not a biologist. Oh, well, now you have to be a biologist as well. So now you have to be a physician. You have to be a doctor. You have to be a biologist to know what gender is, what sex is. So if any of you aren't a doctor, if you're not a physician, if you're not a biologist, well, you can't tell if you're a man or woman, folks. I guess that's where we're at now in 2023. Unbelievable.
But I want to start with sex. Okay, there's male, there's female. When a baby's born, before the baby has had time to even have a sense of self, there's male, female, and intersex. There's a third sex.
I believe that is true, but I would defer to Dr. Lopez as I'm not a physician.
Okay. And how many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than five.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than five genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than five genders?
Well, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than five?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection.
Number?
Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving. If you look at young people today, they really don't lean into the binary of only woman and man. So I think that it's incumbent upon us not to legislate on this, but create space for them to explore what their identities are, what their gender identities are.
Let's get back to athletics. I think I understand what you're saying. There are three sexes, male, female, and intersex.
I believe that to be true, but again, I'm not a physician.
And there are an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental state.
Gender is about expression, and I think that there are a variety of ways that you can express your gender.
Okay, so there's infinite number. All right, let's go back to the biology. Male, female, boy, girl, okay? Biologically, do males have an advantage over females biologically in sports?
Again, I'm not a physician, and I can't speak to that.
What's your real-world experience?
It depends. There are some people who are born male that I'm faster than if I were to sprint against them, and some that I'm not. Some males that are taller than some women, and some that are shorter.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many females?
It was actually a good catch there by Kennedy, because there are sports in which women could outcompete a man. But in general, by far, in general, a man is going to sit there and destroy a woman in a sport. I think the women's U.S. soccer team not only got beat by a 15-year-old men's team, again, women's U.S. soccer team, the ones that wanted pay raises and this gender wage gap myth and all this stuff, got beat by a 15-year-old team, and then they got destroyed by a men's league team that was a bunch of retired guys, like 12-0. There's a reason in hockey, I'm a referee, there's a reason why for girls' youth, there is no contact. So whenever the girls play the boys, there's no contact. There's a reason for that, but there's no difference whatsoever. I mean, these people don't live in reality, you guys, and it's tough because you have Kennedy here trying to have a rational conversation with somebody that objectively can't deal with reality around them. They think that there's just an infinite amount of genders. This is mind-blowing. Folks, majority of Democrats, a new poll just came out, majority of Democrats think there's more genders. They think there's more than just male and female. That is where we're at now. This is wild. You're getting to a point, if you can't agree on objective truths, you have no society. It is a crippling effect. So, and thus it would be just a matter of time before other truths sit there and start crippling as well. And now your society's just long gone. There's no recovery from that.
Male members of the NBA, do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her.
They can.
And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky.
It's not just that. Serena Williams herself was on a talk show and said that she would get destroyed by men. Her own words. But this lady over here, she's a little nuts. So this lady here, I think her name's Gaines, has her head on straight. The girl next to her that we just saw is a little out there off in the east, somewhere else. She lives on a whole nother planet than the rest of us.
As well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Okay. I just think, Ms. Robinson, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. And I think that I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And what
Democrats
you do in your bedroom or what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult is nobody's business. But if what I do in my bedroom with a consenting adult, if I decide I want to tell somebody's child about it, then other people have rights too. And I think parents have rights. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sport. In sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, you guys, it is wild that we are in this day and age with the technology that we have. We're the most informed society that's ever existed in human existence. And we literally can't come to an agreement that there are men and women. That is mind-blowing. And there's people out there that think that men are not physically or having a physical advantage against women. I mean, they've put themselves in such an indoctrination camp of thinking and ideology that they literally can't come to grips with reality here. I mean, there's women out there, MMA fighters that are trained in mixed martial arts that, can kick my ass. Absolutely. But in general, that is not going to be the case. I mean, this is so wild. You know what else is kind of interesting, and I was thinking of when we were watching this together, was you notice the Democrat Party, the ones that espouse this equity and equitable and all this other stuff about fairness, is probably promoting the least fairness agenda upon everybody. I mean, pushing mask mandates upon people. That wasn't fair. We're for free speech, but we're going to censor people that say things we don't like. So once again, they're going against fairness. They also want to put in or have implemented affirmative action, which isn't fair by any means. The fact that you have more of a qualification than the other person, but the other person is of a different race and skin color than you, so they get promoted over you because of diversity, equity, inclusion that they want to push. I mean, have you noticed that? Is that just me? That or if you don't go against their narrative of what they believe is reality, of which it is not reality, then they're going to force you by law to basically push certain pronouns and certain beliefs upon you. And if you don't go by that, then you're going to lose your job. I mean, I could lose my job for not thinking. I only think that there's two sexes. I'm sorry. I'll call you whatever you want just to keep my job, but I don't agree with it. And I don't think I should be mandated by law to call you by a specific thing. I'll call you by your name, but here's the thing. They don't want to be called by their name either. That's for a whole nother story, folks. But let me know what you think about this. The question of the day is, do you think there's two genders or do you think there's more? Let us know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.